Well, I got a story for you. And does anybody know what it means to be a slave? What's it mean, Grace?
It means you have to work for someone but not get paid or anything.
Okay, you work for someone, not get paid. Okay. Vanessa?
You have to do whatever they want. You can get sold away for money. It's basically 100% unfair.
Okay, so you have no choice of your own, right? Someone else makes those decisions for you, right? So you've lost your freedom to choose what you want to do, okay? How many of you would like to be a slave? Maybe you think you are a slave. Are you? No. Your parents, you don't feel like they're slave drivers? Good for you. Got good parents, don't you? Once in a while. How many of you, would you like to be a slave, Michael? No? How about you, Mateo? I wouldn't either. Can I tell you a story about a slave? Okay. There used to be a time in this country, a sad time, and in and around the world. In fact, there are places in this world that still have slaves. Did you know that? That's sad, isn't it? It's the evil in this world. And this country at one time thought it was okay. Okay? And that was very bad. And people were sold and bought, and had no choice of their own. Well, they had these what they called slave auctions, where people would come and they would buy the slaves that they wanted for their farms and stuff. And one day at the slave market, there was a big slave, and he was really strong, and he was going to be sold. And so they brought him up there. He had chains all over him, and they we're going to start auctioning. And when they started auctioning, people started bidding $100, $200, as they were going. And every time someone would bid, old Joe, who was the slave's name, old Joe, would call out and he would say, "I'm not going to work. You can buy me, you can do whatever you want, but I refuse to work. I won't work. You can't make me." Wow. Would you want to buy him? No, I wouldn't want to buy him. But the bidding kept going, and it kept going up and up because he was strong. They thought he'd get a lot of work out of him, but he kept telling them, "I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work." Then all of a sudden, the bidding got so high, and there was a man in the back who gave this, he said, $2,000. Well, no slave had been bought for $2,000. That was astronomical. That was unheard of. Why would anybody pay that kind of money? And after a while, no other bids came in because no one was going to compete. And finally the auctioneer says, "Sold!" Sold to the man for $2,000. And you know what old Joe said? "I'm not going to work. You wasted your money on me. I'm not going to work." And so the man went back to get old Joe and they took off all of his chains and put him in the wagon, and they began to make their way to this man's farm. Old Joe kept telling him, laughed and said, "You sure wasted your money because I'm not working for you." And they got up to the farm where this man lived. And old Joe passed this beautiful, beautiful house. It was a nice, beautiful cottage right by a nice stream in the back, and it was just a beautiful place. And the man stopped the wagon, and old Joe said, "I'm not going to work. I'm not going to work." And then the man stopped and he says, "Joe, I didn't buy you for you to work for me. I bought you to set you free. You're a free man. I've got the papers. I'm signing them off. You're a free man." And old Joe couldn't believe it. And the man said to Joe, "And besides, you can have this property, that house and all the property around it. You can work your own land and you can have your own farm, and it's all yours." Well, Joe couldn't believe it. He says, you can give me all that stuff, but I'm still not going to work. He says, well, you're not going to have to work for me. You're free to do whatever you want. He was set free. You know what old Joe said?
He said, I'll do anything for you.
He was so grateful to this man, he says, I'll work for you forever. Why? Because he set him free. You know, it's important. We have the freedom of choice. And one of the things the Bible tells us is that we can choose. God has given us that gift to choose. And we can either choose God or choose something else. I'd rather choose God. You know why? Because he set us free. He gives us that choice. I'd rather work for him, wouldn't you? That's right. You can go back to your seats now.